Bingies, welcome to the BingeWorthy podcast, part of the Geekish Network. My name is Johnny Randolph, and I've got a whole crew of just dope-ass hosts today. My first co-host is the lovely Miss Courtney Scott Wright. Courtney, say what's up to the people, man.
Hello, hello.
All right, and you know him as Duke from the Ville. Ricard, yo, man, tell the people who you are, son.
Hello, Governor.
And coming back home, he's one of the founding members of BingeWorthy. Yo, Centel, man, tell the people who you are, son.
Oh, Miss Silly Home now.
Chuck,
Yeah,
man, let
good?
people know who you are, man.
What it do, people?
And round us out, we got Catherine in the house. Catherine, say hello to the people, man.
Oh, hello. What's up?
And we are the BingeWorthy podcast. The premise of the BingeWorthy podcast is we will binge watch an entire season to let you know if you should. Today, we are going to be reviewing Netflix's Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. The series was released in full on Friday, November 2023. Netflix's Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is a Japanese anime television series developed by Brian Lee O'Malley and Ben David Grabinski, reimagining or a retelling of the omnipresent graphic novel original English manga written by Brian Lee O'Malley and adapted into a film by Edgar Wright. What we do at the beginning of our show is we will rate it using our BingeWorthy scale. So I'm going to call on my technical director right now, Rodney. Please let me know, how did the BingeWorthy crew rate Scott Pilgrim? Okay, so we got, let's see. We got a BingeWorthy. We got another BingeWorthy. We got a 4 mil. We got a 4 mil. We got a BingeWorthy, and then a final another BingeWorthy. That's 28. Ricard probably already got it, but I've got 4.6. We must have stuffed him if he didn't get it, because he always beats my calculator.
He just didn't even try.
No, I didn't.
I can tell by looking at his face. He was like,
Is that right? Is that right? Is that calculation right?
I got 4.66, so we can round that up to 4 BingeWorthy. You redoing the math, Chuck?
Can't see
Yep.
everybody's.
Yeah, that's what we got.
You right.
It's 4.66.
Mhm.
Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to engage in some discussion, and then at the end, we are going to re-rate it. All right. All of the properties are about Scott Pilgrim. He is a muddling slacker who has a garage band, and he literally meets the girl of his dreams. So we're going to start off a discussion. Let's focus a little bit on Scott Pilgrim, the character, in all of its iterations. Scott Pilgrim versus the Worlds, the graphic novel, was published back in August of 2004, and its last issue was July of 2010. Then the movie launched in July of 2010, right before the last book was released. So I'm just throwing out an open question right here. Has anybody here read the graphic novel? So let's start with Chuck then. We'll go to Chuck, then we'll turn you to you, Centel. How did you think the movie's actors how did you think the movie actors represented the characters that were in the graphic novel?
I thought it was great casting. The graphic novel is the same art style as the animation, but to make them live action, Michael Cera was a good choice for Scott Pilgrim. He's after him coming off Arrested Development and Superbad, it was easy to see how he could be Scott Pilgrim. Because Scott Pilgrim is not a likable character. Not a likable character. It's hard to be rooting for him, but you do root for him. And all the cast just fell in place.
Okay.
Brian Roth, all of everybody just fell in place, and they just fit the mold. Aubrey Plaza as Julie Powers. Julie Powers was amazing because it fits her. It's just they did a really good job. Edgar Wright did a good job.
Okay. What about you, Centel? How do you think the movie actors represented the characters from the original graphic novel?
Here's the thing. I did read the graphic novel. It was one of those things where I was like, well, let me binge it real quick before the movie comes out. So not a whole lot of it stuck with me other than the fact that it was fun. I do remember the feeling of reading it, but I couldn't tell you, panel for panel how it compared. And I do remember there being like some changes and some significant things kind of being left out in the animated in the graphic novel. I keep on calling it a manga, and it's not. In the graphic novel than the movie, but the casting itself, it's solid. It's what you would expect. I don't think anybody was going to be overly surprised or disappointed with the voice actors that were already selected, because we're already familiar with who was there. I think the issue regarding this show as compared to the graphic novel is, as it's named, Scott Pilgrim, you get to see Scott Pilgrim. And this one is called Scott Pilgrim, but you don't really see Scott Pilgrim.
But it says takes off. It says Scott Pilgrim
takes off.
He took off for work. Yeah, he took off for work. Yeah, you're right.
We're gonna talk about.
He took a vacation.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. So
he had some PTO time in.
Right. For this series, the entire cast is back. They're back from the movie. So I'm gonna start with you, Courtney. How do you think the movie actors performed in this animation?
I thought the voice acting was pretty good. A lot of them translated. Some of them didn't translate for me. But my favorites were surprisingly Knives Chow. She was kind of her and Kieran Culkin, who was Wallace, were my absolute favorites. Aubrey Plaza was Aubrey Plaza. Like she's the same. Anna Kendrick as Stacy. I actually would have liked a little bit more of Anna Kendrick's Stacy. And Michael Cera, like when he was in it, he translated. Will Forte. There were actors that popped up and I didn't even realize Weird Al had a voice cameo. Like there were some really good turns. I can't think. There was one that I was like, it was a little boring. Like Gordon was a little boring for me. Until he got with Chris Evans. I thought Chris Evans did a good job. I thought he did a really good job coming from live action to the animated version. And his character, Lucas Lee, was really funny. So overall, as an ensemble, I thought they all worked. But on their own, a couple of them, they were just kind of okay. But yeah.
All right. So Rakam, I'll turn to you real quickly. Courtney talked about some of the characters that she had. Were there any standout performances that you thought that were in the actual animation?
In the animation, I I have to concur. I did like Lucas Lee. And it was a lot easier to like him and see his little arc through this as opposed to the movie. Um, Matthew Patel had a little bit more meat on his bones in this than he did on the movie, so he was interesting. Um, Besides that, everybody was everybody. So I mean, it's kind of I do agree that we did not get a lot of Anna Kendrick as Stacy, as Scott's sister, but I tell you, probably the standout to me for this was Kieran Culkin as Wallace Wells. He was everything
killed it.
and
He was my favorite
everywhere
Killed it.
character.
in this. Like this could almost been the Wallace show, because he killed it, and just all the choices that he made acting and his interactions with all the other characters were fantastic. So to me, he was the standout.
All right. Catherine, were there any characters that you wish we could have received more of or had more screen time for this season?
That's a good question, because I felt like a bunch of them got pretty well represented, like their own episodes. I guess some of the band members, even though like I'm not as interested in them, but some of them that like didn't get as much. Like Steven Stills, like he was there, but like wasn't as deep of a dive. And I agree with Scott's sister. She was just kind of in and out. But I kind of like I felt like a lot of them did like this show focused more on the background characters and like the other exes over the movie, of course. So
Okay. Yeah, we didn't get a lot. Well, like I said, we didn't get a lot of Scott. So Chuck, before I'm gonna
Brie
jump
Larson. I forgot
Huh?
Brie Larson as Envy. She
Yeah,
did a
Brie
really
Larson.
good job.
I
Yeah.
thought she killed it, and
She killed it.
yeah, and a lot of people don't like Brie Larson. I don't understand why necessarily, but I thought in this she killed it. I enjoyed her as Envy. So Chuck, I want to talk about the series, the content of the series. But first, I want to start with you and ask, do you feel that a person should watch the movie before watching the series? Not do they have to, but do you feel they should watch the movie before watching the series?
It's funny you say that. When I recommended this and I asked them, did they watch the movie? And they told me no. I said, watch the movie first, then watch the series. Because you won't understand what the takeoff point means in Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. It's like an alternate universe. I like the whole they set it up like a multiverse point. It was what's the points we call them in Spider-Man when they
across the universe.
No, across the Spider-Verse.
No, they're fixed points.
Canon event. Yes,
yeah.
canon event. Like a canon event occurred and it changed everything. And I tell everybody, watch the movie first, and you'll get a feel for the actors there, and you can see how they translate into animation with Science Saru. And I did tell everybody, watch the movie first. I told everybody, this is like 4 hours of your time. Do it. Because first of all, I love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Like, it was a bomb at the box office when it first came out, but it gained like this cult following throughout the decades, and people who love it just really love it. So I think it's a testament to the quality of the project. I'm gonna jump with you, Centel. What were you expecting from this adaptation?
Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah. Scott. I'm thinking you saying his name.
Just gonna be real with you. Here's the thing that I was expecting and I did receive. Scott Pilgrim has a lot of different IP. You got the graphic novel, which is amazing. You have the movie, which is amazing. You have the video game. If you haven't played the side scroller, you are doing yourself a disservice. It is one of the best side scrollers I've played in a very long time. It's amazing. So when they brought this back with the animation style, when they're going to animate everything, I was like, I have full expectations that it's going to be amazing. And it was in some ways. It really was. I think the artistic challenge to do this and what they did with the story was ballsy. And I think they did nail it, but it didn't meet my expectations of what I really wanted, if that makes sense. It's well done art, but I was expecting something different.
Okay. All right, so Courtney, everybody, we're talking about it, so we might have some spoilers alerts out there for anybody out there who's watching. There's a few spoilers out here. So the first episode, it starts off very similar to the movie, but then we deviate significantly from the first story. Were you shocked by this, and did it work for you?
I was a little shocked because to be honest, I don't know what I expected. I think on some level I expected an anime retelling of the movie with maybe a little bit more extras, you know, things that had been left out now that you have a series and you have more time to tell it. And so when it deviated, I was like, wait, I'm sure he won. You know, I was like, I don't know what happened here, but okay, I'm on this ride and I was really curious. But to Centel's point, then he was gone. And I think for me, following Ramona and, you know, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I think that's who was Ramona Flowers.
Yeah.
She did not get it for me. Like, following her journey was cumbersome. And I love the animation itself. I love watching the way that they drew it and the way that they, you know, put the entire thing together. But following her, I struggled. I was like, daggone it. If this girl changes her hair color again, how does she have hair? If in anime, she would be bald. That's all I kept thinking.
Her edges would have been a wrap.
But she did say that in the movie. She changed it either every week or every day. That's
right, but it was in the movie was the course of one day. Or it was like what.
They also didn't show her dyeing her hair, so.
It also didn't show her dyeing her hair.
No, they didn't show her dyeing it, but she did say she changed it.
Because Scott was like, you changed your hair.
And that was a point for Scott. He was upset about it at first.
Yeah, but they didn't. Yeah, I felt like this one showed it too many times.
But I guess it was more, seeing as how it started every episode, it was more, I was more aware of it. I just kept thinking she'd be bald. Maybe back then I didn't know how hair dye works. I don't know. But anyways, to answer your question, it wasn't what I was expecting necessarily. There were some of the episodes that did drag on a little bit, but I did have fun.
Okay. So we talked about it. It changed a lot because I'm with Courtney. I went into my kitchen because I knew what was coming. I was like, he's going to defeat the first X, and then the episode is going to end. And then I come back, it's like, Scott's gone. Like, oh, wait, did I miss something? So, Raquel, how did this change your overall viewing experience? Did it make you want to jump to the next episode, or did it make you scratch your head and like, hey, what are we doing here?
It made me want to jump to the next episode. Okay. Because I'm like Courtney. I thought I thought it was weird that they called it, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. And I was like, okay, well, maybe they don't have the rights, can't just call it Scott Pilgrim versus the World again. So, okay, that's different. I thought it was going to be the same, a retelling of what we saw in the movie. They brought back and that's why they brought back all the voice actors from the movies, but they were going to give us a little bit extra. They want to delve deeper into stuff that we didn't see in the movies that was in the graphic novel. But I knew something was amiss because in the first episode, they skated past a whole lot of stuff. And before I knew it, we was at the Rocket and he's fighting Matthew Patel. And I was like, wait, already? Like, shit, it's 8 episodes. Like, I thought he wasn't going to fight him until like episode 2. And then basically each episode, you're going to give us a new evil X. Yeah, I was like, what the shit? I was like, he's already fighting him. And then when he disappeared, I was like, oh, okay, we off the reservation now. What, and but what I enjoyed about it was it's hard for properties, especially ones that I'm familiar with, to surprise me. And this show kept surprising me. So.
Okay. All right. Captain, what'd you think about the animation style for this?
It's very in line with the comics. Like it seems to match the style of the comics, which kind of has like a mixture of like kind of Japanese. I don't want to say like style because there's multiple styles within Japanese animation, but kind of has like a mixture of that and more Western art, I guess animation styles too. But I thought it looked great. The only thing that bothered me was the lip sync, and it seems like there is like a limit. There's of course limited mouth movements, or when they do lip sync, they draw out the mouths, and it seemed like there's less for those frames. That sometimes they were slightly out of sync in some sequences, and it mentally bothered me. Even though that could have been a stylistic like choice, it just my brain kept on thinking, okay, they're not syncing with their words. But outside of that, visually beautiful and like action sequences were great. Sorry, my earbuds are falling out, but it's really good visually. So yeah.
Okay. All right, and that's one thing I want to follow up on. Trey, man, Centel, I know you love a good action sequence, man. So, what'd you think about the action sequences in Scott Pilgrim? I mean, it's not. I don't know. I'm gonna get your opinion. What do you think about the quality of the action sequences?
Well, I had the privilege of watching this with Rakai, and one of the things we kind of like were hinging like the sink or swim moments regarding the series as a whole. It's like, okay, they're taking us on a journey that we're not necessarily familiar with, and maybe not necessarily feeling really comfortable with. But if you can knock out these action sequences out the park, I can be very forgiving. And we were very forgiving. Some of the action sequences went above and beyond my expectation of what they could do, especially with that particular art style. They changed the art style up a little bit to facilitate the use of speed, so that we can actually see what's going on, because it could have easily been a chunky mess. And they came up with very unique ways to tell a story through the action. Even in non-battle scenes, like when we're talking about like Lucas Lee on his skateboard, was really well done. You know, it's just it carried the burden of me being uncertain. That's how much I liked the action sequences. So when I was confused and kind of ready to go home a little bit, I was willing to stay to see what the next cool thing was going to be.
Okay. So, Chuck, with the series now, with it kind of focusing on the disappearance of Scott Pilgrim, it kind of transforms into a detective story, even a coming of age story, as they're finding out who they are and they're looking for what happened to Scott. Were you okay with this plot change, as it differed significantly from the movie?
Yes, I kind of was. When my canon event in it was when Crash and the Boys didn't perform at the concert at the bar, because they perform at the bar, and Steven is freaking out, and Scott smacks him, and they go on stage and perform, but that didn't happen. So when Scott died, I was like, what the hell happened? Where the hell did Scott go? We gotta find Scott. There's no way they just killed Scott in the first episode and it's changed. And I liked how when literally Ramona Flowers stepped up and turned into Veronica Mars for me. And I was like, I'm in for this, because I love Veronica Mars as a series, you know that. And I'm a big fan of CW mystery shows. So I was like, oh, this is a whodunit in anime style. I'm here for the ride on this. And it's about people coming of age. I'm like, okay, I'm here for Gilmore Girls and One Tree Hill stuff going on here. I'm here for this. They heard my cries. Brian heard my cries in my sleep. And I was here for the whole entire ride, and you know, the animation style, I loved it. And so it just all fit together for me. I was like, give me more of this. I couldn't have enough.
Okay. So Chuck just talked about the switch from like a detective style coming of age. Courtney, so I want to know, what were some standout plot points for you, either good or bad?
I did love the musical and Young Neil's movie. I thought that those two events really got a chance for us to spend time with both Envy and Lucas Lee and Wallace. Wallace and the little vegan boyfriend.
Todd
Ingram.
Todd, I mean, they were killing me. They were really funny.
Yeah.
And other storylines. See, I just wish I don't know what it was about Ramona Flowers. Like I can see the Veronica Mars now that you say it, Chuck. I did not see it when I was watching it because she was, I don't know, she didn't grab me. But I loved the journey of all the suspects. The suspects were the best part because they were just ready to give themselves it up. You know, I didn't do it because of this. And I thought that was really this hodgepodge cast of characters were really fun. I think those are the things that really stood out for me. I think the thing that I missed most were, for me, the lack of battle scenes. I didn't have enough battle scenes. Like I really wanted to see, and the battle scenes that we had, they were they were fun, but there wasn't enough to it, you know? And it wasn't substantial in the fact that Scott is literally fighting her evil exes in the movie in order to like save his life and then potentially and have the girl at the end. The stakes weren't high enough for me. So I guess that's what I didn't like.
Okay. So Rakas, same question to you. Were there any standout plot points for you? Either good or bad?
Absolutely. Yeah, where to even begin? I love the action sequences. And I asked Centel, I was like, listen, the one thing that they gave us in this animation that they did not give us in the movie, and I didn't even really, when I watched the movie, it didn't even seem like they alluded to it, that there was cheek clappage. Ramona and Scott spent the night together and did the the horizontal tango or whatever.
Yeah, they did.
They almost
didn't do it though.
Yeah,
they almost did. They didn't.
No,
do
I
it.
thought they did.
No, they didn't.
No,
she said I won't have sex with you today.
Yes.
And then later on, she said, I might change my
said,
mind.
Yeah,
and
she said,
then
I
they
deserve
wake
the
up
right
like they did.
Yeah. No, there was some intimacy going
That's
on.
what that was just my interpretation.
I heard her.
in the movie,
I heard her say that, but I guess I didn't think that they had done it yet.
Yeah, I just rewatched it today. Like it's the same. Like they almost do, they don't, and they wake up next day.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
They just slept next to each other.
So the point still remains. So in the movie,
your point remains.
I didn't get that sense at all. Like he got that close to her. I just thought in the movie that he was more infatuated with her. He had saw her in a dream, and this is the girl of his dreams.
Yeah.
Where in here, at least they had that. They got a lot closer. And then, the next day, he's at the thing and he's fighting the League of Evil Exes, fighting to the death or whatever. And I was like, listen, how good is that thing? Because I don't want nothing like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he didn't even got a chance to know her. He don't know nothing about her, and now he's fighting to the death for her the next day. Listen, girl, you take that and go on down the road with that. No, listen, hell no. The best thing could have happened to him was he disappeared. Like, listen, you didn't save yourself a whole lot of trouble, sir. But
he was really only worth 3 coins. I think that made me
that right there.
Yeah.
He's worth 21 cents.
Man, that reminds me of a joke. It was D.L. Hughley, and he was talking about Titanic. And he said, it's the scene where they're in the ocean and she's laying on a little iceberg. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to give it all to you and I'll just stay in the water. And D.L. Hughley was like, shit, you ain't even met my mama. Like, hell, you better move on.
For real. Hell no.
We hooked up one time and I'm supposed to die for you?
Yeah, hell no.
I still contend that he could have fit on that daggone headboard. It was
he could.
They had a science. They actually had a couple of colleges do a whole run through in a contest.
Yeah, do an experiment.
If he really could float, and he could fit.
Wood floats.
And put them in all sorts of different positions that both of them could fit on that damn. Yeah.
If they would have balanced the weight out on one side. Anyways, we off the topic. Sorry.
But then back to, so my plot point was, so I thought that the first half of this season was really strong. And then it got right in the middle, and I just like, now we're at a point where I was like, come on, bring Scott back, give me some more fights, give me something, because now I'm getting to the point where I don't care. Like, it's not, it's a little talky, it's a little, you know. And then we got to like episode 6 or something, and I was like, listen, they've got to bring Scott back. I mean, you're talking about the next to last episode. They got to bring Scott back. They're not going to wait till the last one, so they got to bring him back soon or something. And to see older Scott and that whole thing to wrap up, the whole whodunit to wrap up, that was interesting. But not only that, for even older Scott, who's been working out and now he's got his,
He's
had all this time.
He's a Santa.
No, but the interesting thing was, it says like even older Scott, but it said like said mental health and, you know what I'm saying, and, you know, stability, whatever, unknown. Like, yeah, he was clearly out of his tree. The fact that when Super Ramona came, that they started dropping some gems right there, where, you know, she said, okay, this one, he's an idiot, but this one, he's a mess. And the thing where she said, she realized in herself, being, you know, current and, you know, future her, whatever, when they melded together, she's like, yeah, you know, because I tend to run away from my problems, and because I tend to run away from those things I love, you know, let me go and say this now, because I probably won't have enough courage to say it later. I love you, you know. And then she said, and then she told the even older Scott, you know, it's never too late to fix a mess, that he had a chance, because he was so focused on, we got into this thing, we're done, that was the love of my life, and it's messed up, so I would be better off not even having met her at all or whatever. And that's why he went out of his way for all this old bullshit. But the thing is, instead of them just having a conversation and going back to fix what was messed up, and where she said it's not too late to fix a mess, and she even put him back in time right at the beginning of that 10-year period where he started training so he could fix it. I was like, yeah, that shit is pretty strong. In this, you got to see depth in all the characters, because like the one thing that Michael Cera was perfect for this role in the movie, because I absolutely can't stand Michael Cera. Like, he has the most punchable face. He has the most punchable face. Like,
no, the second most punchable face.
Who's the first?
Lord.
Owen Wilson.
Owen Wilson.
That was coming.
Not for me. Owen Wilson. Owen
Actually,
Wilson's about second or third for me in punchable faces.
Wilson.
But
I like Owen Wilson too.
I like Owen Wilson too. I don't know what they have against them.
No, Michael
For me, that's
Cera,
Will Ferrell, but cool.
Yeah, Michael Cera's at the
Will
top of my
Ferrell
punchable
too.
face list.
Funny to me. Sorry.
But in this, I even with Will Forte playing the older version of him and the even older version, you got a little bit of depth. You got to peel back some layers of the onion on Scott, and he wasn't so one note as he was in the movie. Because really, in the movie, that's all he did. That's all he was good for, was to show up and fight the hell this unassuming looking dude who could fight his ass off and fight the evil exes. Like, he wasn't shit. I mean, the best thing he did was where he outsmarted Todd, the vegan dude, made him drink half and half, you know. And then when he realized where he messed up, and then him and Ramona teamed up against Gideon, that was the height of Scott in the movie. This at least gave him. I mean, yeah, but I mean, this at least gave him some layers. This gave Ramona some layers. It gave everyone a little bit more depth through the series. So, and I thought that even though it got murky in the middle, it came back and stuck the landing for me. So.
All right, good stuff. So, Centel, you talked about one of your expectations in Scott Pilgrim was Scott Pilgrim. So what did you think about the plot device used to bring him back? The interjection of time travel, did that work for you? Did it stick the landing, or what? What are your thoughts?
Well, I did a lot of comparison to Mad Max Fury Road, and Mad Max Fury Road had a lot of people upset because it didn't have anything to do with Mad Max. But the thing is, it to me is probably one of the best Mad Max movies ever made. It was crazy dope, super, super good. And I felt a lot about that regarding this series as well. I do understand the argument and the disappointment of not having Scott. Change it, call it something else. Don't lead me into believing that I'm going to see one thing and then change it up and then expect me to have, the same mindset throughout the entire movie. We got to like episode 4 and we were like, yo, if I don't see him or have some kind of something to tell me something different time we get to episode 5, I'm gonna really feel some kind of way about it, right? And that's with me knowing that what I'm seeing is decent, but I didn't come here to see, Ramona Flowers. I don't get me wrong, it's not a bad story, and I thought they did a decent job, but that's not why I'm paying my currency is my time, and my currency was, and I came to see Scott. So that didn't really, I still feel a little some kind of way about it, but like Mad Max Fury Road, I loved Mad Max Fury Road. It was dope. But I didn't come to see Furiosa. I came to see Mad Max.
And we got some comments in the chat. The Funk said, even when you know how badly things can go wrong and want to erase the potential for pain, maybe the good times would still be worth going through the struggles all over again. I think that's was kind of piggybacking on what Rakai said. Mark said they ain't lie because Scott definitely took off.
Yeah, he did.
Earlier,
it gives the title new meaning.
Right.
Now I understand why it's Scott takes off. I was thinking
Scott
like
takes off.
Scott blows up and,
That's what I was
and
too.
takes off and grows
thought he
up,
jumped higher or
or like
something.
makes a big
He's like, nah, this
Nah, he
PTO.
took the day off.
It's the PTO. Yeah.
He actually legit took off.
He's like, yo, I'm out. But you know what? But what I did like, I really did like the meta moments, because when they got meta, it got crazy dumb meta. Like I talked earlier about like this IP being on a graphic novel, it was on video game, it was a movie, and all three were excellent. Inside of this show, we saw it as a screenplay, we saw it as a book that was written, we saw it as a theatrical performance, we saw it on stage. Like it was very mindful of itself that it is a mixed medium IP, and it gave like a hat tip to it. It also kept like some of the tones of the original movie as well, where at the very end you get a chance to see Scott fight himself, and he ends up having like a buddy moment with himself as he kind of like defeats a version of himself, and you kind of see that again. I was happy that they kind of gave like a bit of a hat tip to that. And then it also was kind of like thumbing its nose at me, an audience member, because I was like, yo, I wanted to see Scott fight, the ex-boyfriends. And then, Edgar Wright was like, well, I'm gonna have Scott fight the ex-boyfriends, but it's not gonna be the Scott you want. It's gonna be a different Scott. He delivered. Scott did fight the ex-boyfriends, but it was an old, battered, weary version of Scott. So he did make right on his promise. I just wasn't expecting that format.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Not only that, we had Edgar Wrong.
That's what I was just about to
Edgar Wrong, right?
Edgar Wrong was dope. I thought
he was the director of the film.
Right.
And Edgar Wrong was like, I got to stop Wallace from banging out Todd every time I look up. It was Todd and Envy always making out. And then Wallace was like, let Todd kiss me. And then it changed all of that.
Yeah.
Wallace came in and laid it down.
Laid it down.
Changed his whole perspective. He was never
the same.
They were just running lines.
Running
lines.
They was running cheeks. Because that bad boy was rocking.
He saw Sparks.
Wallace is my favorite character.
He saw Sparks.
Yes, I agree.
He killed
Wallace
it.
was
Saw
hilarious.
stars. Made me see stars.
Hannah, at the end, when Wallace said, wait a minute, sparks are a real thing?
Yeah.
That was funny. That was really funny.
That was
Like I feel that though, like he didn't fight that. By the time young Scott got back to try and continue, because he had the wall blocker, when he got to the evil exes, Ramona had therapeutically fixed everybody, but he didn't really get to fight them per se. They had a team up. They had an Avengers team up at the end against Scott Thanos, but but I felt a little let down, because
I thought they were going to fight. again. I thought he was
I
gonna
thought he was
fight
gonna
him.
have to
Yeah.
fight them in order to, like, you know.
I thought he was gonna
move
fight Gideon
forward.
again, like Gideon and the
But
person Gideon's. I forgot.
Julie.
but
Yeah.
to Cordy's point, Ramona fixed everybody, and it was really they
She
didn't have
got
that
closure
angst.
with everybody.
Yeah, and so All right, so Catherine, how important was the music in this for you? What role did the music play in your rating?
So I didn't really realize who the band was in the movie. I'm not really good with musicians' names and stuff, but for me, I don't like the intro sequence music. For me, like, I understand that it's referencing anime, or I guess Japanese animation, whatever, but that kind of the intro sequence I kind of want to skip. But I guess the other music is kind of on par. I'm not sure if, again, I'm not good with the musicians' names, but yeah, it was fine. Like, it kind of matched the movie a bit outside of the intro sequence, or intro music.
Okay.
So.
Chuck, did the music have any impact on you? I know a lot of people say, if you don't listen to the beginning sequences of an anime, then you're not really an anime fan.
Yes, that's a really big thing in anime. There's a lot of things that weebs do that should die. Like the subs and dubs conversation, that should die. But a lot of anime weebs is like, if you don't watch the opening sequence song, you're not a true fan.
Right.
It's like, I'm not watching 4 minutes of a song every new episode. When they say skip intro, I'm gonna hit the skip intro button and get to the action. I just need to hear it the first time. Like, okay, that's what they're playing.
The only few intros the only few intros I don't skip is Peacemaker, because it's great. And it's choreographed really.
Yeah.
Yes. But even like Attack on Titan, I loved their first few seasons of the intro song. I would let them play.
Yes.
But then the later seasons, I didn't love them. But the closeout closing credits had some bangers on. Same with Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, when they switched up, I remember calling Chuck like, why keep changing the song?
Yes.
And he's like, it's a new season, and I'm like, but what? I got used to I'm attached. And he was like,
I said,
every single season. And I was like, oh, and halfway through the season they would change it sometimes.
Yeah.
I was with Catherine. This song didn't really get me, so I did what Chuck did. I listened to it the first time, and a couple times I would let it play through just because, I wasn't standing near the remote. But usually I was like,
yeah.
I enjoyed the first song. The last songs always change. The closing songs always change. If you didn't notice, they did change. But I thought the music is very important in Scott Pilgrim.
Mm-hmm.
It's about his band. It's about them doing battles of bands. I actually owned the original movie soundtrack. I owned the video game soundtrack. I wouldn't tell anybody that, but I own the video game soundtrack. I bought it as a master collection, and I'm probably going to buy the animated series soundtrack when it comes out, the collector's edition.
What was the main band that played in the movie? Like the movie
Clash of Demon Head
is Metric.
Are you talking about the real life?
Clash of Real Life is Metric.
Okay.
But this Clash of Demon Head was the band who Bree actually sung that song.
Yep, and Defunct points that out in the chat. He says, I do think it was interesting turnabout that they let Metric's Emily Haynes play Brie Larson's singing voice, whereas in the movie, Brie sang Emily's song.
Yeah.
I was wondering if Brie sang. So she did not sing in the anime, but she sang in the movie.
The original song. Mm-hmm.
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 All right. So Rakan, let's talk to you. What do you think the story will go if we get a season 2?
Well, one of the things that I kept trying to predict and I kept being wrong was that that the abduction was a grand scheme all put together by apparently Gordon Goose. I thought that Gideon had, had this long con played out where he lost to Matthew Patel and he did all these things. So where he came out victorious in the end. So to find out that it was Scott, that threw me. And I was like, wait, what the hell? And then, when he was going to blow up the stage, and I was like, okay, there's Gideon. There he is. But then that didn't happen. So I would imagine if they go to a season 2, that, it's back to him up to his old tricks. But, there's no League of Evil Exes, or maybe there still is. I don't know. I don't think that we got the payoff that we deserved or we should have got with the Katanagi twins. Because, they were barely in it. And when they did show up in it, like they, we got the robot, which that was some weird shit.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, just to see where Scott could go. Because like I said, to me in the movie, he was one note. So with this, where they gave him a little bit of depth, who's to tell? Because, they ended this with Knives has joined the band, and apparently she learned to play piano in 45 minutes.
And bass.
Yeah. And now she's writing songs too.
Mm-hmm.
And she wrote the whole musical.
So her and her, even that was genius of how she did her research on Matthew Patel to know what would get him to sign off on that shit before she even met with him. But then her and Steven wrote Brie Larson and Envy Adams' new song.
Yep.
Which they were doing in the studio at the end of that. So there's a lot of places to go, and I don't know if Scott Pilgrim is really the focal character of Scott Pilgrim anymore. And I think that's the thing that this series kind of brought, is like, it's more so the cast of characters. Because really, if you focus just on Scott, that might be boring as hell. Hell, I could have a whole series about Wallace. Wallace is up to anything and everything. So as long as he has his crew around him, as long as he has his crew around him, and there's, this is a more fun-hearted, Scooby-Doo crew. Like, it's not all about Scott. I don't even see the next season could be called Scott, but it wouldn't be about Scott.
But one thing that did stand out in the very last scenes, it showed Julie talking to Gordon.
Yeah.
And they were plotting.
Oh yeah.
In a sliver like situation.
Yeah. And back to their like I said in the first episode, I was like, what kind of money does this dude? He has got NSA level quality security. He is watching everything that Ramona does. Like, that is some creep show shit.
Because remember, he said, my billionaire friends left me, and even my millionaire friends. I'm like, damn, fam.
Can't make a reservation at McDonald's.
Right.
That line, can't make a reservation at McDonald's, got me. I laughed.
Nah, but he knew everything that happened at Ramona's house, and it just happened. Like, he's like, she just farted in Scott's face, and he laughed. He's like, wait, that just happened. Like, it was too much. But to see him and Julie now enjoying that level of wealth again at the end, it's a scary thought.
And
I don't know if I want it or if I feel like it should happen on someone, because I feel like Scott and Ramona seem to be the same type of person. So therefore, I feel like Scott has some evil exes in his background, if Envy is any indication. So though I don't necessarily want a whole nother season of just Ramona, I would like to see Scott's band of evil exes. I would like to see what that is.
Can we give a shout out to speaking of one of his exes? Can we give a shout out to Envy Adams? What was it, episode 2 when she raided the funeral?
She did a whole concert at the
or her formation
out. Just
Ninja paparazzi.
She was killing it.
Yeah,
she was
the Ninja-Razzies were like, I mean, full force. She sure did show up.
Not only that, what kind of church is that? Like, that church is the most lit church. They already had they had the blinds dropped down on the stage.
The blinds down, yeah.
The pulpit, the stage rose up. I was like, is this Creflo Dollar's church? Whose church is this?
Oh man, she stole the show.
In the chat, the Bug says reservations at McDonald's was one of my favorite gags too. That was fun.
It was. What was really stood out to me was the paparazzi.
Yeah,
and seeing Lucas, it showed off the animation chops of the Science Saru, the studio. It really did. Like seeing them pop up, and it's like, why are they always popping up with Envy and Lucas Lee?
Yeah,
and how Lucas
Ninjarati.
handled them. Like him when he was skateboarding, I was like, this is really kinetic.
Hold
that
on,
skateboard scene was dope, man. I thought they did a really good job with that. Yeah.
On top of the fact that it was so funny that they put his house is on top of Pasadena. Like they put his house all the way at the top, and he jumped off of his house onto the shops and then down onto the road, like, and then he fought the Ninjarati. I was like, that's great.
It's great.
One of y'all brought up the fact that the twins didn't really get a lot of clock time. I thought that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, they gave Knives a whole lot more depth. So I did appreciate that. Like there was a lot more to her. So I was like, well, they missed this one, but they made up for it in this way.
The funk is in the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Catherine.
I'd also say like Ramona and Scott's chemistry was a lot better in this versus I felt like the movie. It was just like, all right, like I think Cobb, you mentioned it earlier about like, you know, the romantic scene and stuff. They're much more intensified. So I like that improvement. And I just also felt like Ramona was slightly a bit more had a little bit more emotion. I know she tends to be a bit more on the monotone scale, which I think is why it's harder to focus on her as a character alone. But that's all. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Defunct's in the chat. He's really dropping a lot of gems. He's read the comics. He said Kim, Envy, Knives, and Wallace are Scott's exes we know about. So I guess he follows those. And then he says, and the comics really highlight how Scott is their evil ex. So
wait, he said that Wallace is also
that's what he said.
Scott's ex.
Wait, so Mark X, he says, hold up, Defunct. Scott was with Wallace, and it's implied Wallace was into Scott, but it was a one-sided infatuation.
Yeah, I didn't think that Scott had a relationship with Wallace, but I think it was just, you know.
I think it was funny how they kind of alluded to that, like, okay, you're okay with a sugar daddy? Like, I thought that was funny.
Yeah, the sugar daddy line was hilarious. Yeah.
It was really funny.
Oh, sugar daddies.
even him waking up, you know, next to Wallace, and Wallace is like, you're still here? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
So
when they went through the whole house and showed all the things that were Scott's, which was like 2 things, a poster and some oatmeal or something like that. Like
dirty clothes.
Oh, dirty clothes. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Because everything was owned by Wallace. And Scott's so self-absorbed that Wallace's bed is his bed. That's why, you know, in the movie, he's like, can you not be here when I bring Ramona over to have toast in our apartment? Because he doesn't pay for anything in the apartment.
Nope. And then the actor.
And he lives across the street from the apartment, which is crazy. His parents live across the street from the apartment.
So good stuff. All right, I think we've talked about this enough. So let's re-rate it. Let's start with you, Catherine. How are you going to re-rate it?
I still mostly feel the same. I'm very much in line with Courtney on like how I feel about the show, where I felt like it had a good first half. It kind of dragged on. I think it suffers from pacing issues is like my main issue with the show, and I think Scott could have appeared sooner rather than later. But I keep it at a mini meal.
Did you say mini meal or 4 meal last time?
Mini meal.
Okay. Mini meal?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Centel, how you gonna re-rate it?
I was hoping I can get my mind changed to make me stay at a full meal. I may knock it back down to a mini meal. I like the effort. I really do, and I like the courage to go out of the box. I just have a bias towards me wanting to see what I showed up for.
Okay, so you're going with a mini meal.
Yeah.
Courtney, how are you gonna re-rate it?
You know, like I like it did have some really fun points and characters that I really loved, scenes, but again, I just kind of like what Centel said. I showed up for Scott. I kind of felt like I did the season 1 of Loki when I showed up for Loki and got Sylvie, and Loki was almost her companion. So, and this one was even worse because Scott just dipped out, you know, he just left. At least Loki was there, you know? So like it was really hard for me to stay invested when he was gone after like the end of episode 1 and didn't come back until the literally last 10 seconds of episode 6. So we really only had him for 7 and 8 and the first one. So I as much as I enjoy the animation and a lot of the performances, I'm gonna have to stay at a mini meal, and that's me giving it my high rating just because I needed more fight sequences and I needed more Scott.
So I'm going to jump in here, man. I still love this thing. It's actually one of my top 10 shows of the year. I had so much fun in this universe. And yes, I agree. Scott wasn't in it, but everything else I thought was dope. So I'm going to keep mine at a 4 binge out. Rakai, how you going to re-rate it?
I really thought that, very similar to Courtney and Centel. I really thought that I was coming for the Scott show. But what I realized along the way, along this journey, is would I have been satisfied if I got another retelling of the movie just in animation style? Like, is that even really needed? If you want to introduce Scott to a whole new generation, just have them watch the damn movie. Story is king. This story was strong enough to withstand and even hold up at the end when you take the lead character out. Like I said to Centel, I was like, oh, we going Game of Thrones with this thing. You didn't took out Scott in episode 1. Like, what is going on? And it gave a lot of depth to all the characters, including one that I can't stand, which is Scott. It even gave him some more depth, and it kept me coming back, if nothing else, just to guess what the hell is going on. It did get a little muddy right in the middle because, there's only so long you can go with that. It was like, okay, you took Scott away from us. I'm expecting to see fights. I'm expecting to see Scott. You took him away. I'm seeing all this other stuff. It's great. There's some fights. Cool. But at some point, all right, let's, let's hit the red staples button. Let's wrap this shit up. Like, come on now. Let's, so I thought I was going to drop back, but I think like you, Randy, I think I enjoyed this quite a bit. And I did like this. And I would recommend people to see this, whether they've seen the movie or not. I think if you've seen the movie, it gives you more understanding. But for once, I don't think I'm going to drop back. I think I'm going to stay at a binge out.
For a binge out?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't expect to say that.
So Chuck, bring us on home. How you going to re-rate it?
Let me quantify this first. I read the manga, all 6 volumes, 3 times. I saw the movie twice in theater, bought the Blu-ray. It's probably seen it another 10 times. So I didn't need more Scott. I had a lot of
what you're saying
Scott.
is that you barely like this. Okay.
Yeah, I really liked it. So when Scott disappeared, I was like, oh my God, they changed it. Thank you. It's going to be something different. Because I was like, all they're going to give me is the manga. And I know the manga verbatim, the back of my hand. I watched Scott Pilgrim. I watched every alternate ending. I watched the director's. Oh, I forgot to say, I watched the director's cut of this film and listened to Edgar Wright talk about all the scenes and how he cut them too. At least twice. It's my favorite Edgar Wright film. And he's one of my favorite directors. So when I saw this, and I was like, it's Science Saru, and I like what Science Saru did for Star Wars Visions. And then I realized I heard it's gonna be in the Hiroyuki Imaishi type of style, which he did Kill La Kill anime, and he did Promare. I was like, okay, I'm on board because Science Saru does like hand drawn animation and computer animation. It's really weird. They're really weird. And so when he wasn't showed up, I was like, I'm here for it. I wish there could have been more fight scenes because I want to see what Science Saru does with fight scenes. They did okay with Toby versus the Inquisitor for Star Wars Visions, and I just want to see what they did. But I think they made up with it with the Lucas Lee skateboard scenes. Every time there was a scene with the paparazzi, the ninjarazzi, I really enjoyed it. Could I had a whole animation like that? Of course. I hope that I get that season 2. And maybe we'll get that with the twin season 2. But I think Brian wanted to break all the tropes that he fell into the first time around. He was younger. He's been bashed about it. Like a lot of women have come for him about Scott Pilgrim, and so he wanted to say, "Hey, I have." Yeah, they did. He wanted to say, "I have matured as a person, and I don't look at her as wife-sided, and women are not just objects to me. I actually wanted to give them their own standard and their own independence." So with that being said, I'm going to stick with a binge-worthy because I see the growth of the creator and that they were able to bring the whole entire cast back on this and everybody buy into it. I'm totally impressed. Hope they buy into season 2 too. And they had Weird Al Yankovic in there too. So I'm all in on the Weird Al stuff.
Yeah, and the two security guards were other Edgar Wright.
Were Simon Pegg and Nick Frost.
Simon Pegg and Nick Frost too. They had Simon Pegg and Nick Frost in it as well.
And in the chat, Defunct gave it a 3.5, so he said he'd round it up too. And Mark gave it a mini meal. And for the total that we have, it went down. We're giving it a 4 meal. For
hey, Randy, can you do something? Can you do something special?
Yeah.
Put Mark and Defunct's rating in there as well.
I gotta redo them all
let's,
over.
Let's do it all over. Let's do it all over. Let's do it all over and put them in there.
We mathing in real time.
Yeah.
We're making the math.
So Mark
sat there with us the whole
Mark
entire
gave it
time.
a mini meal, and we'll put Defunct at a 4 meal. So what is that? 8 people. It's 30.
Oh, Mark Defunct, thank y'all for kicking it. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thanks for all your comments and letting us know.
So if we add them to it, it's still about the same. It's a 3.87. So we'd still round it up to a 4 meal. So the cumulative score is still going to be at a 4 meal.
Good place to be.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Good stuff. Yeah. Appreciate it, Mark and Defunct. So Courtney, you got anything to say before we head out, man?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Or Friendsgiving.
Geek out or Friendsgiving. All the things. Geek out and eat up.
Like it. Centel, what about you, good sir? You got anything to say before we head out?
Yo, I had a personal accomplishment. I'm really proud of it. Listen, episode 300 of One Piece. I'm on that bad boy. I'm on 300. We just crossed over the day.
68 more and it gets good for you. 68 more is gonna get good. Hope you ready.
We got like 700 more episodes.
But in 68, it starts getting good.
It's phenomenal.
I like that.
One Piece is for real. It's phenomenal. So I just wanted to share that accomplishment with y'all. Thank y'all.
Hey, that's noteworthy.
That is noteworthy.
Yeah.
Ricardo, what about you? Got anything to say before we head out?
No, just happy. Rodney threw it in the chat, but happy Geeksgiving.
Yeah. I like that.
And actually, since we're talking about a little bit of action, I'm looking forward to next week's chat.
Yeah, next week, since you brought it. Well, why don't you tell them what are we doing next week?
Netflix Blue Eye Samurai.
Yeah, we're gonna do Blue Eye Samurai. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Good stuff. Shock, you got anything to say before we head out, sir?
Thank you all for being here. I mean, if I had to give thanks, I want to give thanks to you all for always being here for us. Happy Geeks Giving.
Right. Go home and cry. Captain, what about you, man? You got anything to say before we head out?
Thank you for inviting me. This is great. Happy Geeksgiving, Friendsgiving, and Thanksgiving. And if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, happy day, happy holiday.
Happy free day.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Sleep in.
Yeah, get some sleep.
Shouts out to Digital Click. They provide all of our marketing needs. If you're in any need for any marketing or advertising needs, consider reaching out to Digital Click. Shouts out to Rodney, our technical director. Rodney puts up all of the rating signs and all of the transitions that you see. So he's dope and he's amazing. Shouts out to the Gigish Network, just a whole, for providing safe space for people of color, BIPOC people, to discuss our passions and our joys, where we can come here and provide our insights and our own personal perspectives. And again, we've got amazing people that are in front of the camera and behind the camera. So please support us. We're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. Hit those like buttons, hit those subscribe buttons, and please support us, because Yes, share us because we're creating amazing content. People like you. That being said, somebody said, Happy Geeksgiving. And next week, we'll be back with Blue Eye Samurai. So then, we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
I just realized it. Episode 300. Isn't that where the big thing happens?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry.
Man, that's a long way from me, son. I'm gonna